Hello and welcome to the Chatterbox Letters podcast. Today I will be doing another special presentation. Today I will be reading from my self-published book, The Minorities, the Pilot. I will be reading chapter 5. Not 5, chapter 3. Excuse me. I hope that everyone will enjoy listening to me while I read to you The Minorities, the Pilot. Let me go ahead and get started on chapter 3. All right. Let me get it here, get started. All right. Chapter 3. Daddy Understands. It was the late evening. The Wilkinsons arrived at the Langston household. Sarah was still very nervous about telling her father about her pregnancy. The Wilkinsons got out of the car and walked up to the front door. Sarah was reluctant to get out of the car. Mr. and Mrs. Wilkinson, I don't know about this. I'm very scared about what my father would do. Judith told me what happened, Sarah, Donnie said. I don't like the outcome of what happened to you. I will, in fact, support you with any decision you make about your pregnancy, and I know your father will too. Judith agreed with Donnie about Sarah's father. She knew that Paul would give full support to Sarah in any situation with all the love that a father could give his daughter, even if it's concerning his daughter's pregnancies. Sarah, my husband is right. You know he's right about this. Still, Sarah was reluctant to tell her father about her pregnancy. Yes, but I'm scared, Mrs. Wilkinson. That's all into realizing the reality of life. Obstacles are thrown at you. It's according to how you take them in, whether if it's by mind or by the heart. Donnie interrupted Judith. You learn to accept what obstacles are thrown at you and learn to be responsible for the many things that is going through in your life. This is one of your reality checks. Accept it and be responsible, Sarah. Judith interrupted Donnie in return. Everything will be all right. Whatever you decide to do about your situation. Sarah got out of the car. Donnie and Judith embraced Sarah while walking up to the front door. Sarah thanked the Wilkinsons for supporting her situation with her pregnancy. I thank you both. Emily is very blessed and lucky to have you as parents. I'm lucky to have my father in my life. My mother, I don't know. I never know where she is. Donnie encouraged Sarah, knowing that she was still very nervous about concealing the news about her pregnancy to her father. Now let's go and let's tell your father, Sarah. Shall we? Sarah smiled. We shall, Mr. Wilkinson. Let's get over with this. Sarah knocked. Her father Paul opened the door. He was met by his daughter, Sarah, and the Wilkinsons at the entrance of his door. Paul escorted the Wilkinsons into his house. They went straight to the living room where they were offered a beverage before they sat down and conversed about Sarah. Sarah and Mr. and Mrs. Wilkerson come in and sit down. Would you like something cold to drink? Donnie answered Paul. No thanks, Paul. Next page. Judith followed with her response. Like my husband, Donnie. No thanks, Mr. Langston. Paul thanked the Wilkersons for bringing his daughter home safely. He expressed much appreciation the gesture. Thanks so much for bringing my daughter, Sarah, home. I appreciate you both. Judith prepared Paul for what she was about to tell him about Sarah. Paul, I guess you're wondering what's been going on with your daughter Sarah. I've been talking to her more like what a mother would talk to her daughter. I would call it. Sarah, go ahead. Well, Daddy, I want to tell you that I love you, and I hope what I'm about to tell you. I hope you won't hate me for it. Please, Daddy, don't hate me. Daddy, I'm pregnant. Sarah finally confessed to her father that she was pregnant. Susan Langston, Sarah's mother, walked through the door while Sarah revealed her pregnancy. Susan became belligerent when she overheard Sarah's confession about her pregnancy to her father. You're what? Repeat that, Sarah. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Susan came up closely into Sarah's face in haste, while the Wilkersons and Paul looked on with madness. You're what, Sarah? I want to make sure I really heard you correctly. Hesitant to tell her mother, Sarah decided to get it over with, and tell her mother straightforward about her situation. Mama, I'm pregnant. You little whore. What you mean to tell me that you're pregnant? What's wrong with you, you little whore? Susan questioned Sarah. Susan, within an instant, hauled off and slapped Sarah very hard in the face. Donnie and Judith watched in horror and disbelief as Susan slapped Sarah violently about the face. Sarah. I'm getting my words mixed up tonight, but just look over it. Sarah abruptly grabbed her face in disbelief. She was in pain, fearing that her mother would repeat the process. Paul became aggressive towards Susan as he witnessed his daughter being slapped by her mother. Paul hauled off in anger and slapped Susan about the face, repeating the process towards her. Susan fell to the floor immediately after Paul slapped her. Paul expressed his anger and aggression towards Susan. You are the whore. Don't you ever in your life touch my daughter again. Some mother you call yourself to our daughter. You're the one out in the streets whoring around. Get out of my house. Get up and get out, Susan. Paul aggressively grabbed Susan off the floor by her arm and threw her out of the house. Susan stumbled out of the house in disbelief of what Paul had done. I'll pack your stuff. I don't ever want you around this house or around Sarah again. I'm fighting for full custody, Susan. You better believe it. Paul slammed the door in Susan's face and locked it. Sarah was holding her face in pain. She became emotional about her mother hitting her, belittling her, and hating her for being pregnant. I'm so sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry for putting you through this. Sarah, you have nothing to be sorry for. I'm a bit saddened about the news through. But what I need to do is support you and the decisions that you and I will be making according to your pregnancy. Sarah was shocked that her father took the news about her pregnancy so well. Sarah was surprised about how her father took the news. You don't hate me, Daddy? Sarah asked. I don't hate you, Sarah. Not in a million years from now, Paul replied. Sarah was crying. She looked right into her father's eyes as she revealed how her mother hated her for being pregnant. I know Mama hates me with a passion. Daddy, she came straight out and called me a whore. Right in front of the Wilkersons. I am so embarrassed, Daddy. I'm no whore, Daddy. Let's go to the next page, only been with one boy. Paul questioned Sarah about the father of her baby. Who is the baby's father, Sarah? A boy named Richard Morris. Daddy, he's a creep and a loser, and I'm so stupid. Paul took Sarah into his arms. You are not stupid, Sarah. Sarah revealed what Richard been saying around the school about her. Daddy, Richard has been going around the entire school claiming he's not the father of our baby. He is, Daddy. There's no doubt about it. Richard Morris? Where do he live, Sarah? Paul questioned his daughter. Maybe I need to pay Richard and his folks a visit. Do you have his address? Sarah didn't want to reveal Richard's address, frightened of what her life would be like if she revealed her pregnancy to Richard's parents. Daddy, no. You know what my life will be like if you tell his folks. He'll probably trash me even more around the entire school. I'll be known as the whore of Middleton High because I got pregnant from that creep. Richard would like nothing more as to destroy my pride and dignity. He's already done that. Paul threatened to trash Richard if he trashed his daughter around the school. Not before I trash him, Sarah. Donnie clearly understood Sarah's feelings about what would happen to her if word got out about her pregnancy around school. Sarah, that's totally understandable about the way you feel about being trashed and Richard taking responsibility for his actions. These boys nowadays need to take charge for their actions and learn to be responsible in life situations like yours, Donnie said. Paul agreed. Mr. Wilkerson is right. You know he's right, Sarah. I'll handle the part of you getting trashed around school. Don't you worry about that, Sarah. Daddy, how are you going to prevent me from being trashed around school? How are you going to prevent that, Daddy? You can't be there with me every minute. Don't worry, Sarah, about what I'm going to do. I said I'll take care of it. Judith and Donnie were still very shocked about what happened earlier with Susan hauled off and slapped Sarah in the face. They figured it was uncalled for, Susan to do what she did to Sarah when she needed her the most. Judith and Donnie was in disbelief when Susan turned her back on Sarah and walked away. Judith made her point about what happened earlier at the Langston household. It was very clear about how she felt about Susan. Paul, I didn't like the show earlier. Your wife Susan made me so mad. If you will excuse me, Mr. Langston, because Susan is your wife and Sarah's mother. I just wanted to haul off and slap her myself. Donnie couldn't believe what Judith intended to do. He also agreed to the fact that it mattered that Judith was the better woman in Sarah's case. Judith, my God, what that to say about my wife? But she's right. Paul, I wanted to haul off and slap Susan too. No offense to you, Paul, after what she did to Sarah. Paul assured the Wilkinsons that they had no problem about the fact of the matter with his wife, Susan. Paul belittled Susan in the presence of the Wilkinsons for her not being a good mother to Sarah. It was the way they saw her. I got to say, Mr. and Mrs. Wilkinson, it's fine. No harm done to damage Susan's character. Susan gave birth to Sarah. She's less than a mother. She's less than a woman. She's the worst. She's no mother. Sarah would have been acting the same way. Thank goodness I am here for my daughter. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Wilkinson, for being so awesome mother figure for Sarah. Thanks for giving her advice on how to be a woman. I wouldn't have belittled Susan if she would have been a good mother to Sarah. Judith responded to Paul with a compliment for what she said, what she did for his daughter, Sarah. I really appreciate all that you said, that I'll ever be her mother figure. I got to say, as a woman, I agree with Paul. Next page. With all the belittling of her mother from the father and the Wilkinsons, Sarah acknowledged her love for her mother, Susan. No matter what she has done in her past, Sarah still loved the woman she called mother, the woman who gave birth to her, gave her life beyond her own. Sarah turned quickly towards her daddy in tears. In her eyes, she said, "No matter what, Daddy, I still love her as a woman who gave birth to me. But my heart, Susan is no mother to me, not by a long shot. She will never be where she needs to be, and that's in my life. But she will always be in my heart no matter what." Donnie embraced Sarah. Where was Susan when you needed her for advice? Is right. Sarah, now you're going to experience something, and that's giving birth, being a woman before your time, and learning the true meaning of love and being loved. You're going to be a good mother. I just know it, Sarah. It's very important to be. Well, that was the end of chapter 3. If you heard any noise between my reading to you chapter 3, that will be my son and my sister and my brother-in-law. So please ignore the noise that you heard. And I'd like to say, like, share, subscribe to this subscription. Hit that notification button to know when I go live. Ring that bell instantly for updates on my podcast. Okay, and I would also like to say thank you for tuning in. God bless.